Story 1. One weekend, I just had this feeling, this itch to get out and hike. It's hard to explain, but the woods were calling, and I thought, why not? Besides, it was early fall, and the trees were just starting to change, so the idea of a little quiet time sounded good. So I grabbed my boots, a backpack, and a thermos, and I set off down this trail I'd heard about but never really explored. The trail was kind of off the path, like not one of those crowded, popular ones. Just a thin line through the woods that only locals seemed to know. I walked for a while, listening to the crunch of leaves, breathing in that smell of dirt and bark. It was peaceful. The sun was slipping in through the branches, casting these weird, shifting shadows on the ground. Everything just felt, I don't know, right? After about an hour of walking, I stopped for a break, took a swig from my thermos and just leaned against a tree, watching the squirrels and birds do their thing. That's when I spotted it. Just off the trail, half buried in a pile of leaves, was this boot. An old worn-out, crusty boot. It didn't look like something someone would have just tossed aside. It was more like it had been lying there a long time, covered by years of leaves and dirt. I don't know why, but I felt this weird pull to go check it out. It's not like I was expecting anything exciting to happen. I just wanted a closer look, I guess. So I stepped off the trail, kicking through the leaves, and bent down next to the boot. It looked old, really old. The leather was cracked, faded, and there was this moldy green tinge on it. You know, like something that had been left out in the woods way longer than it should have been. Out of curiosity, I reached down and grabbed the top of the boot, thinking I'd pull it up and see what was inside. I gave it a yank, but it didn't budge. It didn't even move a bit, like something heavy was holding it down. It almost felt like something below was holding onto it, not wanting to let go. I gave it another good pull, and this time I swear I felt it tug back. Now I know that sounds crazy, but it was real. Like there was some weird resistance, like someone or something under the ground was holding onto it, fighting against me. I pulled again, harder, and that's when I heard it, a sort of muffled scraping noise, like nails on wood, or maybe rocks grinding against each other. The sound came from right beneath my feet. I froze. My heart started beating faster and my mouth went dry. I could feel this deep, gut-level instinct telling me to let go, to walk away, but I couldn't. I just kept staring at the boot, this weird curiosity taking over. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I thought I'd find some kind of buried treasure or something. So I crouched down and gave the boot one last hard yank, and then the ground shifted under me. I'm talking about the actual earth moving like a ripple or something. And suddenly my hand was empty. The boot was gone. Just like that, it slipped back into the ground, leaving a little hollow in the leaves. I just stared at that empty spot, feeling this cold chill creeping up my body. It was like the woods had swallowed the boot up, just taken it back. But then, right next to where the boot had been, I saw something else sticking up through the leaves. It was pale and thin. My stomach did this weird flip, and I hesitated, but I reached out, brushing away the leaves, and there it was. A finger, or at least it looked like one. A dried, shriveled finger sticking straight up out of the ground, like it was pointing at me. Now, I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but I knew I wasn't looking at a tree root or some weird branch. This was a finger. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet, and just sat there for a second, staring. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, but every time I blinked it was still there. Just poking out of the dirt, pointing right at me. I should have left right then and there. I knew I should have, but something held me back. I heard that scraping sound again, louder this time, like something was moving right beneath the surface. Before I could even react, the ground just opened up. It was like a sinkhole or something, just collapsing in on itself, and I scrambled back as fast as I could, barely keeping my balance. And from that hole, this smell came up, thick and rotten, like something had been dead a long, long time. I gagged, covering my mouth, but I couldn't look away. And then, out of that hole, something started to crawl. At first I thought it was a root, or maybe some twisted branch, but as it pulled itself up, I saw what it really was. It was a hand. It dragged itself up from the dirt, followed by an arm, thin and covered in scraps of something that might have once been cloth. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I just stood there, staring as this thing pulled itself out of the ground. It looked like a person, or what was left of one, but its skin was tight, dried out, stretched over bones that jutted out at odd angles. It had no eyes, just dark, empty hole. But somehow I could feel them on me, feel this cold, dead gaze locking onto me. It crawled forward, dragging itself closer, and every nerve in my body was screaming at me to run, but I was frozen, stuck in place. It opened its mouth, this dry, cracked mouth, and this sound came out. A low, raspy whisper, like wind through dead leaves. And though I couldn't make out the words, I knew it was speaking to me, telling me something I didn't want to hear. Then it reached out, that hand stretching toward me, fingers curling like it was inviting me down into that hole, pulling me into whatever dark place it had come from. And that's when I snapped out of it, turned, and ran like hell. I didn't look back. I just ran, crashing through the trees, not caring about the path or where I was going, just needing to get as far away as possible. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode, and every step felt like that thing was right behind me, reaching out, ready to grab me and drag me back. Eventually I stumbled out of the woods, breathless, covered in dirt and leaves, my mind spinning. I don't know how long I'd been running, but when I finally looked back, there was nothing there. No sign of the thing, no sound, just the quiet woods behind me, calm and peaceful, like nothing had happened. But I knew what I'd seen, what had almost happened. I told myself it was all in my head, maybe just a trick of the light, or maybe I'd tripped on something and imagined the whole thing. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd seen something out there, something that wasn't meant to be found. I didn't go back to that trail, didn't even go near those woods again. Story 2. I used to hike alone all the time. It was my thing. I liked the quietness of it. So this one weekend, I decided to go a bit farther out. There was this forest I'd read about, somewhere deep in the mountains, where the trees grew so thick it was like stepping into another world. People said the forest had a strange feel to it, but that's what drew me in. I wanted to experience it. See if I could actually feel something different out there. I drove out early in the morning and got to the trailhead just as the sun was starting to climb. It was the perfect day for a hike. Clear skies, cool breeze, the whole package. The kind of weather that makes you feel like you could walk forever. So I did. I hiked for hours, just me and the sounds of the forest. Birds chirping, my feet crunching over the dirt. It was perfect. After a while, though, my legs were getting tired. I'd been going at a good pace, so I figured I'd earned a break. I spotted this big tree off to the side of the trail. It had these thick roots sticking out, perfect for leaning back against. So I dropped my bag, leaned back against the tree, and shut my eyes. Just for a minute, I told myself, just enough to rest my legs before heading back. And then I heard it, this soft, almost playful whisper, like someone was right there next to me saying, "Hello?" I shot up so fast I nearly fell over. My heart was racing and I started looking around, expecting to see someone standing there. But there was no one, just trees and shadows. I told myself it was the wind or maybe my mind playing tricks on me. It's easy to hear things when you're alone in the woods, right? That's what I kept telling myself. But then I heard it again. "Hello?" Only this time it was closer. Way too close. Right in my ear, close. I whipped around and again, nothing. Just that same forest, quiet and still like nothing had happened. I remember thinking maybe I'd fallen asleep and was dreaming. I even pinched myself to make sure I was awake. But it hurt, so I was definitely awake. That's when I felt it, a weird chill running down my body. I've never felt anything like it. It wasn't cold, exactly. It was more like someone had just walked over my grave, you know? Like something was watching me. I told myself I was just tired and a little jumpy from being alone for so long. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Just as I was about to grab my bag and head back, I heard a laugh. A low, soft laugh coming from somewhere behind me. And this time I saw something. Way off in the distance, through the trees, I could make out a figure. It was hard to see clearly with all the branches in the way, but I could tell it was a person. They were standing just far enough that I couldn't make out their face, but I could see them, and they were looking right at me. I froze. I didn't know what to do. Part of me thought maybe it was another hiker, someone who had stumbled across me by accident. But the way they were standing there, perfectly still, just watching, it felt wrong. People don't just stand like that, they don't watch you like that. I took a step back and they took a step forward. I tried to keep calm, but every instinct in me was screaming to run. I told myself to keep it cool, to maybe call out and say something, but my throat was dry and no words came out. It was like all the sounds around us had disappeared, and it was just me and this stranger, locked in some kind of silent standoff. And then they laughed again. This low, echoing laugh that bounced off the trees and seemed to come from all around me. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it might explode right out of my chest. I didn't wait any longer. I grabbed my bag, turned and started walking as fast as I could back to the trail. But every few steps I'd hear that laugh again, somewhere behind me, closer each time. I wanted to turn around and see if they were following me, but I was too scared to look. I didn't want to see them again. I didn't want to see those eyes watching me. I tried to keep my pace steady, tried to focus on my breathing, but my legs were shaking. Every step felt like I was dragging myself through mud. And then, just when I thought I was in the clear, I heard a whisper. That same voice, soft and playful, right in my ear, saying, "Leaving so soon?" That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I broke into a full sprint, not caring where I was going, just trying to put as much distance as I could between me and whatever was back there. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually I stumbled out of the trees and onto a familiar part of the trail. I could see my car in the distance, parked right where I'd left it, and I've never been so happy to see anything in my life. I threw my bag in the back, jumped into the driver's seat, and peeled out of there without looking back. The whole drive home, my mind was racing. I kept replaying what happened, trying to make sense of it, but no matter how I looked at it, it didn't make any sense. For days after, I kept thinking I'd see that figure again. Every time I looked out my window or glanced in my rearview mirror, I half expected to see them standing there, watching me with that same unsettling stare. I told myself it was just my imagination, just the lingering effects of a bad experience. And the laugh, God, that laugh, it's like it's burned into my brain. Sometimes I wonder if it was all real or if I just lost it for a bit out there in the woods. I haven't been hiking alone since. It's like something inside me changed after that. I don't get that same thrill from the trail anymore. It's like every time I think about going back out there, I feel that same chill running down my body, reminding me of that day, reminding me of the figure in the distance, laughing. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, check out more of my videos on the screens above or visit my channel for even more. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates. Stay safe and take care.